welcome to Between Two Wings, our new video series where we'll be interviewing aviation enthusiasts just like you to get a better insight on their experience between two wings. I am your host, Emily Norman, and today we have a special guest with us, Chris Palmer from Angle of Attack. Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
It's great to be here with you guys. I'm excited to get started.
Definitely. So if you don't know Chris, he is a CFI. He's also based in Alaska, and he produces some epic content. So if you haven't followed him on social media, you definitely should. You will not be disappointed. So we like to start off each show by kind of explaining where we are right now. So as you can see, I am currently in the Swiss Alps, flying along, just cruised out, taking a second to talk to Chris here. But Chris, you look like you are in a slightly more beautiful place than I am, so tell us about it.
Yeah, we're actually in the mountains of Alaska. So this is Denali behind me. This is the largest mountain in North America. Some say the tallest mountain in the world, base tip. So yeah, that's where I'm flying.
And was that a special flight you were doing or just one of your regular cruises around?
You know, this was a really special flight. This was after a student of mine took a check ride. She became a commercial pilot, and we went up. This took place at about 10 p.m. Behind us, and perfectly smooth air, just beautiful. We were celebrating and just taking a bunch of pictures. So kind of matching what I do flying in Alaska with also one of my big passions, which is teaching.
Definitely. Is that something you do for all of your students once they pass a check ride?
No, not necessarily. I had another student that was going to take a check ride the next day, so we all jumped in the plane and just kind of went up and celebrated. In fact, we even ended up ordering pizza on the way back. We were about 15 minutes out and ordered a pizza before we landed. So it was a really, really good time.
That's definitely an awesome way to celebrate a check ride, which is funny because you're one of the first people who called me when I passed my check ride, and I just got a phone call. So you'll owe me one of those post-check ride rides in Alaska one day soon. And so speaking of, if I showed up on your doorstep tomorrow and said, Chris, I'm a low-time pilot. I mainly fly in Southeast Texas. You know, it's flat down here. What are some of the things that we would focus on you on the ground or that first flight to, get me used to mountain flying and the conditions in Alaska?
You know, the big thing with mountain flying is it's not so much that there are now some very hard objects in your path. It's about the air that moves around it. So as a flight instructor, I always say that air is like a fluid, and fluid properties mean that the air kind of flows over the mountains. So even here, I can do a little example. The air flows down and around the mountains. And as a pilot, you need to get used to what that movement is like, and you need to be able to visualize where it's at. So if you've ever looked at, say, a stream, and you see how water moves through a stream around boulders or over a waterfall or over little pebbles even, that's essentially exactly what's happening in the mountains and around terrain. And if you can visualize that, then you're already winning half the battle with flying in the mountains. Wow,
I feel like I just got a free ground lesson. Because I watch all your videos, but thanks so much for that. Yeah, definitely. And, bringing ForeFlight into this, like we say, that's kind of like a sandbox. There's so many different ways to play in that sandbox, referring to the features. What are some of the features that you think are just so useful for this type of flying?
Yeah, there actually are several. So one thing you can do is you can look at the winds aloft, which are, with ForeFlight, it's very nice because you can get them localized. And you can look at the winds aloft before you go into the mountains just to get an idea of what maybe the upper level winds are like. And that can give you an idea if there's going to be turbulence or some action through the mountains. Obviously, temperature is a big thing too, especially in the Midwest, not the Midwest, but the Rockies, where you can get some different action there based on, I guess, heat moving around is a big thing. So yeah, a handful of different things that you can get just with the forecast tools through ForeFlight that can help you out with that. And of course, anything else helps too with PyReps that people may put in there. And yeah, I mean, really, you can open it up. One of the biggest things I like actually is synthetic vision. It can really give you an idea of how you can move through a certain area and what it looks like. Mountains always look intimidating as you're approaching them, but when you get into it, you can see, especially with synthetic vision, you can move around a little bit more than maybe you thought, especially in a single engine, slower airplane.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. It kind of, gives you another set of eyes in the sky as well. That's awesome. So one thing that I didn't know a lot about until I started flying, and especially following your content, is that Alaska has this amazing flying community? It seems like it's a little, tight knit and very interactive. Is there just, something that you love about it or something you can tell us about that's your favorite?
Yeah, I think it's kind of an Alaskan thing anyway, that we need each other up here to survive. And I don't want to like overstate that, but we just kind of have to take care of each other up here. So there have been a handful of situations, if someone goes missing or they're not reporting, you go and you try to find them, you look for them. One example here nearby, my father-in-law was out boating and we didn't hear from him for like 3 days. He was overdue. Flew out there in a float plane. We were able to find him, and saw that he was in safe harbor, just waiting out the weather. I had another friend that helped a guy get a Super Cub, or picked up a guy because he wrecked a Super Cub, and that was a different experience too that I kind of got to ride along with. So we take care of each other and we watch out for each other, and it's so remote here that as a pilot you can get into trouble pretty quick, and yeah, we just, you got to watch out for each other. And so it is a very tight knit community and very nice that way. And aviation is a way of life in Alaska.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And I can imagine just being there and being immersed in it. It's very special. And you're talking about the community feel. I mean, in general, just going through flight training, I feel like everyone needs a support system, whether it's, watching people on YouTube or Instagram, or, just talking to the local pilots in your area. You really need that community to help you keep going and, answer those questions you have. So that kind of brings us to our last question that we plan to ask every guest on the show is, what is some advice that you would give to a new pilot or a student pilot or just someone who's kind of thinking about getting into aviation?
Yeah, so first I'll build off what you said, because it can be a little bit intimidating to approach an airport at first.
Yes,
We've usually got a fence around the airport. You don't really know who to talk to. But, the Alaska community is great, but believe it or not, the aviation community is great almost everywhere. So just walk in some doors, some businesses, talk to people, see who you need to talk to get integrated into the community there and get an idea of how things work at your small local airport. And then on top of that, I just want to give permission to people, because maybe no one else in your life will, that you can pursue this dream that you have in aviation. And there is a way, and there is a community there to support you in doing it. And I can speak for myself and probably a little bit you, Emily, in saying it's a life enhancing thing to be a pilot. Like even this photo behind me, getting to share that experience with my students and also be able to help them to become a pilot. Aviation does enrich life, and I hope that those of you out there that are thinking of doing it will A, have the courage to go to the airport and talk to somebody, talk to people, get integrated, and then B, I give you permission to chase your dream.
Well, I definitely think you said it the best ever, and I echo everything that you just said. And, Chris is very motivational. He's a great CFI, and he would love to talk to you. So like I said, follow him on social media, ask him those questions about flight training, flying in Alaska, or if you just want to talk about aviation, I know he's down. So
yep,
thank you so much, Chris, for coming on this show. It has been a pleasure. I hope to talk to you soon and see you around at, all these big shows that are going to happen next year, hopefully.
They will happen. Fingers crossed. Thanks, Emily.
So thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode of Between Two Wings, and see you next time. All right, Chris, you got to look at the camera too.